Man refuses to listen to a warning phone call from his future self. What happens next is genius. A man was sitting in his room when the phone on his desk rang. He picked up the phone and asked, "Who is this?" A voice on the other end said, "Don't open the door. In 30 seconds, someone will come to your door claiming to be a pizza delivery guy. Don't open the door. It's not really him." The man thought it was a prank call, so he hung up. But then his phone started ringing again. He picked up the phone, and the same voice said, "This is very important. Don't open the door in 20 seconds. If you do, you'll be putting your life in danger." The man was a bit scared now, but he still didn't take the call seriously. His phone started ringing again and again, and the voice kept saying the same thing, but decreased the time to 10 seconds, then to 5 seconds. The man was now very scared, and he started thinking that maybe it really was important. But just as he was about to make up his mind, the call ended. The man waited for a few minutes, but since no one came to the door, he decided to forget about the call and went back to what he was doing. Just then, there was a knock on the door. He ignored it, thinking it was the neighbor. But the knocking got louder, and the man started to get annoyed. He got up from his chair and went to the door to see who it was. When he opened the door, he saw a pizza delivery guy with a pizza box in his hands. The man asked, "Did you order a pizza?" The delivery guy replied, "No, I think this might be the wrong apartment. Sorry to bother you." And he was about to leave when the man noticed something odd. The delivery guy was wearing a glove on his right hand, but he wasn't wearing one on his left hand. The man's eyes fell on the pizza box, and he noticed that it was slightly ajar. The man pushed the box open and saw a gun inside. He quickly shut the door and called the police. When the police arrived, they found the delivery guy's body in the hallway outside the man's apartment. Apparently, the delivery guy had gone to the wrong apartment and mistakenly knocked on the man's door instead of the one next to his. But when he tried to leave after realizing his mistake, he was shot dead by someone inside the apartment. The police were able to catch the killer, and it turned out to be the man whose life the delivery guy had saved by making that delivery. You see, the man had received multiple phone calls from his future self, warning him about the danger that would come to him in the form of a pizza delivery guy. But he had ignored those calls. Had he listened to the advice given to him by his future self, he could have saved himself from going to prison for 20 years. The moral of this story is that you should always listen to advice, especially when it comes from your future self. Who knows? It might just save your life one day. Now, if you had been the man in this story, would you have listened to the phone calls? Let me know in the comments below. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far, far away, there lived a beautiful princess who was known for her kindness and compassion. One day, a handsome prince from a neighboring kingdom came to visit, and the two fell in love and decided to get married. The wedding was a grand affair with all the pomp and ceremony one would expect for a royal marriage. After the wedding, the happy couple went to a secluded cottage deep in the forest to live out the remainder of their days together. They were very happy at first, but soon they started to get bored of each other. The princess missed her old life in the kingdom, and the prince missed his friends and family. They started to fight more and more, and eventually they decided to go their separate ways. The princess returned to her kingdom, but she was no longer welcome there because she had been gone for so long. Her parents had passed away, and her only remaining family was an old and bitter aunt who took great pleasure in tormenting the princess. The princess was heartbroken and had nowhere else to turn. That's when she remembered the wise old hermit who lived deep in the forest. She had visited him many times in the past for his wisdom and guidance. Maybe he could help her now. The princess traveled deep into the forest to the hermit's cottage. When the hermit heard her sad tale, he invited her to stay with him. The princess accepted, and soon she began to feel better. The hermit was a kind and gentle soul, and he made the princess feel welcome and at home. They spent their days talking, and the princess learned a lot from his wisdom. Meanwhile, the prince returned to his kingdom, but he too was no longer welcome there. His family had moved on, and they didn't want anything to do with him. He was also shunned by his friends and colleagues because he had abandoned them to go live with a commoner girl. The prince was devastated and felt like he had no one in the world. One day, while walking through the forest, the prince came across the same hermit's cottage where the princess was staying. He knocked on the door, and when the hermit opened it, he invited the prince in. The prince told the hermit his sad tale, and the hermit listened patiently. Then he invited the prince to stay with him. And that's how both the prince and the princess ended up living with the hermit. They stayed there for many years, learning from the hermit and growing as individuals. Eventually, they realized that they had been foolish to abandon their responsibilities, and they made plans to return to their kingdoms and set things right. Before they left, the hermit gave them each a small box and told them not to open the boxes until they were back in their kingdoms and had regained their people's trust. The prince and princess promised to do as the hermit said, and then they set off to return to their kingdoms. Upon their return, they were both met with joy and celebration. Their people had missed them and were overjoyed to have them back. The prince and princess took their responsibilities seriously this time and ruled their kingdoms wisely and compassionately. After many years of happy and successful ruling, the prince and princess decided to return to the hermit's cottage to thank him for his help. When they arrived, they opened the boxes the hermit had given them. Inside were 2 keys, each attached to a small note. The notes read, "With great power comes great responsibility." The prince and princess looked at each other and realized that the hermit had given them the keys to their old kingdoms. They had learned a valuable lesson about responsibility, and now it was time for them to put it into practice. And so the prince and princess happily returned to their kingdoms, ready to take on their responsibilities as rulers once more. They ruled their kingdoms wisely and fairly, always remembering the valuable lessons they had learned from the hermit. And so the story of the foolish prince and princess who learned the value of responsibility and the importance of listening to wise old men became a legend in those lands.